Hello, I'm popping in with the video, and this is actually tying in and completing the previous series where I'm mostly appearing in a green shirt. And I'm not offering this as anything more than a pet theory. So I was more so just leading up to saying that a lot of life is a lot more electrical than would maybe be appreciated, even as well as we think that we appreciate and enjoy electricity. I'm going to say careful, enjoy electricity while I'm sitting next to a socket, but I think that life is far and away more electrical than we could appreciate. And a lot of times, if you have something that exists on a broad scale, most things exist on a vast spectrum, a vast scale. And so, as profound and bold as lightning is in the sky, I've thought that it might exist on a subtler level, even in a lot of life that may be going on and that we don't. It goes right past our awareness. Not that it's entirely outside of the ken. Ken is like the range. It's not entirely outside the ken of our awareness, but it's not in our paradigm to recognize it. So it would a lot of it would go right past our awareness, and even past and through our what we understand as our body. I think that so if you can, like, some people say that sometimes trees get struck by lightning, but I say maybe trees only exist to get struck by lightning, and that is when a tree is struck down by lightning. That might be the more that may be a more profound sense, and that also might be some form of pruning. Is that if you look at how sophisticated lightning is it's almost like it's hard to imagine what it would look like to see a master at work, but the weather, like the sky setting, the sunsets, sunrises, would be similar to the artistry of a master. Then lightning in a storm is another form of mastery, and some of the grace and the striking and the severity of a lightning storm, but some of the delicateness, the fine tuning of it, something that sophisticated, you would almost appreciate that could be the farthest thing from. It's almost like pure coincidence, yet the farthest thing from coincidence. So were something to get struck by lightning at all, it's kind of daunting to see that it would be random or by accident, as sophisticated yet subtle and graceful and profound as lightning is. So you could say that if something were struck by a tree, struck down by lightning, writ large, brazen, that would be exactly intentional. It would seem that would be my reasoning, that it would be completely upon some form of meaning, or some there's be some cause to that significant of effect. You couldn't have that profound of an effect outside of an intelligent, efficient cause. If we appreciate all the intelligent, efficient causation around us. But so that might be like some form of pruning. But you could say that that's what we can appreciate in a storm, but that might be going on all day long, because do these trees not look like nodes of some kind of electrical wiring, maybe grounding the static phenomena in the air? Arthur Avalon has said that what we experience is this reality is a function of what's called logos. That's a combination of thought and word form, and that I've thought that maybe we're simply always speaking as we're thinking, and that our according to Arthur Avalon, we go from causal to subtle to gross speech. So what I'm enunciating now would be gross speech. Then as I'm thinking it, it's more so subtle, and then as it's occurring to me, it's like causal, and then you have it worked up like that according to the circumstance and the inspiration and opportunity. But you could maybe say that speaking is always going on together with thinking, even as we're dreaming, because are we not also speaking in our dreams sometimes, both overtly, blatantly, but seldom, but then also more so subtle, and then maybe causal, is we're still speaking that whole time. And so according to Arthur Avalon, that's actually what's fascinating existence. And if I had to, so when I say things like intelligent cause, efficient cause, what would be the most intelligent and efficient cause of what we have to experience as experience? I would say it would be somewhere around the phenomenon of electricity. And I've sometimes come to think that maybe what we perceive as wind, also hot and cold, but even wind itself, would be more of a static phenomenon in electricity. That would explain some of the movement of wind without an actual fulcrum or lever that we can appreciate. Because most things that have any form of leverage would have a fulcrum. Some people would say that that's the heat and cold dynamic, but if heat and cold are completely without a like a physical component, I would still think that heat and cold might be more so effects, and that's how we experience it in order to mitigate and adjust for it. But it would be just simply a charge of some kind. Is that heat and cold would be different expressions of a charge, and then therefore the wind would also be different expressions of a charge as a function of what's hot, what's appreciated as hot and cold. But at that entire time, it would still be just simply static, because you think that most things, most things exist on a grade. So if what we're seeing as wind is really just simply fine particles, there should be a grade of that. So more of them, some would be more so obvious, and then some would be less obvious. But the majority of what we have for wind is completely inobvious. And then you say that maybe you have like stuff like dust. But I would say that maybe dust would be like, so even if you have like earth, so like earth, wind, and fire, air, you could maybe say all that can be appreciated in electrical terms, where what we have for, because what we have for water is conductive for electricity, and then so you could almost say that water and earth would be like different degrees of cooling, or different temperatures of just simply a charge in the first place. And then so what would be the most profound within that line of reasoning would be both electricity and fire. And I want to talk a little bit more about that going further. And these are just pet theories that occur to me sometimes. But but what's more so significant of the wind, that it could be maybe appreciated just in terms of static. But then what we think is not separate from what we say. But the combination of what we think and what we say, does it not go out into the atmosphere and affect the atmosphere? Such as, like, if two people were in a living room and they had it with each other, and they really let each other know how they feel, and then they were graceful enough to leave the living room, the room, or be escorted somehow, would there not be some kind of static in the air after that just took place that you could perceive? Maybe even someone walking in, not having perceived it, could feel it, but at least you as a bystander, could you not feel something in the air after that took place? Now, how much arguing and letting each other know is going on in life all day long, constantly abroad, that would have to put some kind of charge and static into the air. Now, from Arthur Avalon, that might be what we harness as electricity. The logo is thought in word form, but somehow there need to be a grounding for that, because all things must be grounded and balanced. And there's really there's no appreciation of anything electrical without some form of grounding. So I've thought that maybe as much electrical activity as our mind has been thought, I hesitate to equate our physical person to like mechanical apparatus, like electricity and computers, as is a tendency in the modern to anthropomorphize things. That means like make it understanding in human terms. But I think we can appreciate that a lot of what goes on as the activity of the human existence being, can be appreciated in electrical terms. And I said in another video that at least military science, engaging in combat, people, beings, but also systems in combat, can be appreciated in electrical terms from a scholar that I spoke to in privacy. A lot of medicine can be appreciated in electrical terms, like the systems of a body. And then finance can be appreciated in electrical terms, and I've enunciated some of that. But I want to say that a lot of our existence can maybe be appreciated in electrical terms, and also the activity of our body. I've said that a lot of it can be called like kundalini, as all the activities of the human body collectively can be as dynamic and kinetic, would be kundalini, according to the reasoning of Arthur Avalon. But then the static support of that kinetic activity, which according to him, all activity has a static component, would be housed in the sacrum, the something called kendra, the base of the sacrum. This would be the housing and the seat of the activity of the body. But it can be, all that can be appreciated in electrical terms, not the least of which the head being the terminal point of when occasionally kundalini has been reputed to rise and create experiences of enlightenment and satori in a unique sense. But in general living, there can be appreciated a lot of activity, at least in the brain, electrically, but that would need some form of grounding. So I think that our very feet may function as that grounding. If you think about how sensitive your feet are, therefore how connected they are to the earth, and they wouldn't be that sensitive if it didn't have a purpose. And it's largely a disadvantage. They say that the warriors of Shaka Zulu were formidable because he was forcing them to train upon thorns with their very feet, which would actually toughen the feet and callous them so that they'd actually be more dynamic and mobile than their rivals that might have been employing sandals. That was an advantage. But that's an example of how how limiting the sensation and the pain of feet can be. So there'd have to be an overwhelming benefit to the sensitivity of feet, and I think that that's us grounding with the earth. So is a pet theory.